Hey all, this is Redditosker. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom comes out May 12th, which is in 10 days at the time of recording. Which means we're about to be in single-digit territory. We're basically here. And so I want to take one opportunity to talk about my deepest hopes for this game, and my hopes for the future of the Zelda series in general. I want Tears of the Kingdom to be Nintendo's magnum opus. I want it to be the best Zelda game they've ever made. Currently, my favorite Zelda game is Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time was the first game I ever played. It has remained my favorite Zelda game throughout all my life, and is a powerful contender for my favorite game of all time. When Breath of the Wild released in 2017, I thought it was wonderful. I thought it was its own kind of masterpiece. And I loved it even though it was a radical departure from the classic 3D Zelda formula that was established by Ocarina of Time. Even though Breath of the Wild's runaway success could mean the death knell of the classic 3D Zelda formula that I grew up with and still prefer. At the time, I understood the backlash that came at Breath of the Wild from classic Zelda fans. From the people that would say, this is a good game, but it's not a very good Zelda game. But I had a different opinion. I don't think Nintendo was capable of putting in their passion to make more 3D Zelda games. It's not that the genre or the style was bad, it's that Nintendo was tired of it. It's that they didn't like it anymore. They didn't want to make those kinds of Zelda games. And I think that if they had continued to press forward and make more Zelda games like Ocarina, like Wind Waker, like Skyward Sword, their quality would have inevitably dropped with each installment because they simply didn't want to make them. They were the ones that were tired of the formula. There are interviews around that support that idea, and there are interviews where they talk about Breath of the Wild and how refreshing it was to work on it. How delightful the development was, how easy, how much fun the team had. Which is a stark contrast with the horror stories that you hear of their crunching to make Majora's Mask, for example, Twilight Princess. I believe that if they had kept working on traditional 3D Zelda games, the series would have died a slow and unpleasant death. Because they kind of knocked it out of the park with Ocarina of Time. It set the norms and traditions of the series for nearly 20 years. The games that followed it, except for maybe Majora's Mask, ironically, were chasing after its shadow. They were refining and making adjustments to a formula that was nearly perfect when it was established. There was only so much you can do and change when you adhere to those norms and traditions. Continuing down that path would have led to inevitable stagnation. Again, not because the genre or the formula was bad, it's not, but because Nintendo was tired of it. They just didn't want to do it anymore. And so when Breath of the Wild came and eschewed all of the norms and traditions, completely broke off in its own direction, I think that was a good thing, because it opened an entirely new avenue for Zelda games to evolve in. And Tears of the Kingdom is the result of that evolution. When I see Tears of the Kingdom, when I look at its trailers and I look at its previews, I get the feeling that this is the one. This is the Zelda game that can finally take the #1 spot away from Ocarina of Time. And you know what? You need to listen to the song in the trailer because it's been too long since you heard it last. You're forgetting what it sounds like. Let me play it for you.
Link.
That song is amazing, gives me weird emotions every time. So my hope for Tears of the Kingdom is that it's the best, that I like it better than Ocarina, and that it acts a bit as a unifier between people that didn't really like Breath of the Wild because of the lack of dungeons. I hope Tears of the Kingdom has dungeons, and that the dungeons are dungeony enough that most of the classic Zelda fans will be like, yeah, these are dungeons. These make me happy.
We happy? Vincent! We happy?
Yeah, we happy.
I want Tears of the Kingdom to succeed. But what about after Tears of the Kingdom? What's going to happen after Tears of the Kingdom? Even if it does act as a kind of unifier, is that the only olive branch we're getting? Does this mean that the older formula is well and truly dead, and that this is the only kind of Zelda game that's going to exist going forward? And forget the 3D games like Ocarina, what about the 2D games like A Link to the Past? Are those just going to disappear too? I like these Breath of the Wild open-world Zelda games. I love them. I have nothing but praise for them. But does their success mean that Nintendo can't make other Zelda games more in line with their traditional formula? Not even once, as an experiment to see if there's interest in that market? I think that would be a tragedy. I think it would be an absolute crime to just simply cease development of those 2D and classic 3D Zelda games entirely. The development time on these games is taking longer and longer. Tears of the Kingdom took 6 years. Breath of the Wild took 5. If the major players in Zelda development still do not want to make 2D and 3D classic Zelda games, then maybe they should just open up 2 other teams to focus exclusively on that. There must be some people in Nintendo interested in trying something like that. What about Koizumi? Koizumi was responsible for a lot of people's favorite stuff in A Link's Awakening and Majora's Mask. What do you have him working on lately? You've got him working on Mario? You've got him working on The Stretchers? What is The Stretchers? Oh. Oh no. Nintendo, what are you doing? What are you doing? Put Koizumi in charge of a new Zelda game. Put him in charge of a new 3D Zelda game or 2D Zelda game. Zelda games synergize well with his talents. Why do you have him working as staff for Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury? This is bullshit.